Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. In today's session, we will see how to manage resource drifting in Terraform. First, we will see what exactly resource drifting is. As you can see in this image, we have two blocks. The left side, you can see AWS cloud, in which we have set of resources like two EC2 instance, EC2 1, 2, which are currently managed or provisioned via Terraform. And the state of those two instances are already managed within the state file. And there is one more resource, which is S3 bucket, which was directly provisioned via the console by a user. So this kind of situation can occur because of multiple reasons. For example, there will be a scenario where the new user is not really aware that organization is following Terraform for provisioning all the resources, and he just manually made a change directly via the console. Or there can be a scenario where you are in a change window and your Terraform instance from which you provision all your resources is down, or it's corrupted, or it's not active. So in that scenario, just to make sure your S3 bucket, you have completed your changes like adding new S3 bucket within the change window, you just went and added your S3 manually via the console. So in this scenario, you can see there is a difference between the resources which are present in the AWS and the resources which are currently managed within the state file. So this unsynchronized process or unsynchronized differences is called resource drift. So just to overcome this scenario, one of the major ways refresh only option, which we need to pass via Terraform apply to update your state file. When you add a refresh only option to your apply, it will only update your state file. It won't make any changes to your AWS resources on the AWS cloud, right? So that's the major use of refresh only. It will just pull the new resource, which is S3, and it will update in the state file. There are a couple of other options as well, which is hyphen replace. So let's assume there is a situation where your EC2 instance here, EC2 1 got corrupted, but the state file still says it is successfully provisioned, right? So in those scenarios, just want to recreate EC2 1. So in that case, you just need to use the replace flag by passing the resource name and all. We'll see the actual syntax during the hands-on. So basically replace only recreates EC2 1 if you pass that specific name while you are triggering Terraform apply. And next important command is import. So replace and import are not directly proportional to the scenario which we just discussed earlier, but the usage of it is a bit different. As we already discussed, what exactly replace does. Now let's move on to import. So import is a completely different command itself. It's a some command of Terraform. It can't be used as a flag for plan or apply. So what exactly import is, let's assume there is a scenario where uh, you have added, there are previously you are not using Terraform. Terraform was not in the picture at all. And all your infrastructure in the AWS is managed via the console or some other medium or some other tool. But later your organization decided to move to Terraform, completely migrate your the way you provision infrastructure on AWS to Terraform. So in that scenario, to import all those resources which are currently managed within the AWS or currently provisioned within the AWS into your Terraform state file, you need to use Terraform import. Okay, let's move on to hands-on for getting better understanding of how exactly you need to use this command and when exactly you need to use this command. So this is a folder in which I'm creating all my projects. So in this folder itself, I'll create one more folder called new folder, and I will say drift underscore detection. Okay. Or you can also say resource drifting. It's whatever it is, doesn't matter. And I will create a new file here, and I'll name the file as main.tf. And as we are using AWS, we need to download AWS provider. So first we'll have a sample skeleton creator required version. And for this, AWS version and source. HashiCorp / AWS and version. I don't remember the version. What I will do, I'll better pick the version from one of the existing template. I have one created here. Just click here. I will open this. Okay, I can pick this block from here. Okay, I just need to copy this, and my this version is this. Yeah, so I'll just copy this version here. And my current Terraform version is different. I'll just open the terminal. Give me a second. Open integrated terminal, and it's slow. Give me a second. I think I'm using a latest version, which is something different. Yeah, Terraform hyphen version. Yeah, it's 1.5. So I'll just say 1.5 equal to, and yeah, provider is fine. That is the latest one. And yeah, we are good with this block. And now comes the actual block. So in this, we'll just see an example of uh, provisioning. You mean we'll experiment with EC2 instance. Okay, I'll just write a command resource thing for better readability, and EC2. I will just have a resource AWS instance. My autocomplete is not working. Don't know why. I'll give a name like Trust Drift. Okay, and I'll open this AMI and tags. I'll give a name. I'll give a name like something called as web app. Okay, AMI, I think I can pull it from my existing this one, and I can mention the type, which is T2 micro. You can follow my lectures if you have a free tier, because I'm going with a AMI which is applicable for free tier. Obviously, the type is T2 micro, which is also applicable for free tier. So you can follow my lectures if you want. And what else? Yeah. So this is a basic requirement for provisioning a EC2 instance. So let's try doing a Terraform in it. Just move it a bit up for better visibility. It'll take a while for downloading the provider, creating the dependency log and all. So let's wait for a while. Just taking time. Let's wait. I'll just, yeah, it's done. So now what I will do, I will issue Terraform plan just to see whether, not play, sorry, plan. This should, this should create, give me a plan, a predicted plan. Okay, it says type is equal to, hold on, I think, did I make any mistake? Server instance type, sorry for that. It should be instance underscore type, and let's do it plan. We are good with this. So it is creating an EC2 instance. So let's do an apply. Approve. Should provision my instance. I can see in here. Did by default provision in US East 1. You can see here, it's taking some time. Okay, we have our instance here. And if I click on this instance, go to tags. Now if you see, I have one tag here, which is name, space, name, and web app. Okay, that's fine. Now let's assume let's assume there is a scenario where a user manually went, added a new tag called kind web server. Okay, and he just saved it. He just manually made the change because he was not able to access it. Okay, now I'll go back to my Terraform, and if I do Terraform apply, or let's start with plan refresh only. So you can also do one thing, give -h here. You can see all different kinds of options. You can see what exactly refresh only does. It selects the refresh only planning mode, which checks whether remote object will still match the outcome of the. So you'll only do, it won't make any changes to the uh, actual EC2 instance, but it will only just checks whether there are any changes in the remote or actual EC2 instance, and it will try to fetch them, right? So if I try to do a Terraform plan refresh only, so this will try to fetch that specific tag from there. It should have, now you should get a plan which says there is a change or addition, there is a new tag added which has been detected. And so if you want to apply this change, right, you want to pull that change in your state file. For example, if I go back to my state file in the left side, you can see my state file. And if you check the tags here, if I go down, more down, I'll just find the tag. So if you see, there's only one tag. Let's run a command called terraform apply refresh only. So what this does is it will pull those changes and update the state file. Plan will not update the state file. Plan will just show that this is something which has been changed and this is something which will happen if you try to apply these changes. So now it is asking you whether you want to apply these changes on your state file. You just need to say yes, and that's it. You got that kind over here. So that means it pulled that change from there. And just to make it more clear what exactly refresh is doing, let's take a scenario where I made a change here. Okay, let's assume I added a new kind here. Kind is equal to not kind. Let's make it something different. Or let's make it kind only. That's a good scenario. And web server, not web server, let's say HTTP server, HTTPD server. I made a change directly in the config file, and instead of using apply, I will try to use refresh only. Refresh only will not detect anything because it won't apply any changes. The feature of refresh only is to just check and update the state file. So let's hold on. So if you see, it haven't detected the change which you have done. But if you just ran apply, this is going to detect, okay, HTTP kind is going to be updated in place of web server, the one which we have added here. Now let's wait for this one to be completed. Make it a bit bigger, better view. Okay, now if you see, the kind is getting updated with HTTPD server. So that is what the difference is. I'll just give a no, so that will be cancelled. So now if I try to, so that is a major difference between, that is what the feature of refresh is, right? It will just pull all those changes from there and put them here. And remember, every time, if you are trying to give the same name here, right? There's also interesting thing. If you give the same name, the next day you thought, I want to manually, let's say, let's remove kind and say you have something like, okay, let's keep kind. Okay, let's make it the same, give the same name here. And if you try to apply, it shouldn't detect because the config is already matching with the state and state is already matching with the remote. So there is no difference. Everything is in sync. It will say 0 changes needed. You can see 0 changes needed. So that is the difference. Okay. Hope you're getting what exactly refresh does. It will only pull the changes which you have done manually on the console. So that is the advantage of refresh. Now let's see what is the advantage of replace. Okay, let's assume I have two resources. Resource 1 and resource 2. I can create an S3 bucket instead of this one. Let's check, not S3, that's fine. I'll go with this one only. I'll give something like SE1 and I will name it as I'll name it as web app 1. Okay, now let's assume I'm provisioning two EC2 instances. Okay, let's do Terraform apply. So this will basically provision one more instance, right? It won't create two instances because one is already there. So let the other instance get created. We'll look into it. Okay, so I'll just give yes, so that this new instance will be created. By the time, let's open an official document in Terraform, what exactly and how exactly you need to use Terraform replace flag. Okay, apply replace. You can find everything in the Terraform official documentation. Do not even worry about this. Or you can also find the stuff in the command line itself. It should be there. Wait a second. Else let's do like this. Provisioning command, not this, sorry. Yeah. Apply. It's yeah, sorry. Yeah. Here auto pro has something, destroy something. We'll find replace here. Oh, was it deprecated or what? Hold on. Okay, we have provisioned that. Apply -h. Okay, sorry, I just recollected one thing. Replace only work with plan. First, you need to generate the plan, I guess. Yeah. So what exactly this does is first you need to create the plan and pass that plan as an input to the apply. That's true. That's my bad. Okay. So what you need to do is now let's assume I have two EC2 instances. I have should have two EC2 instances. Taking a while. Yeah, I have web and web app one. So in the scenario where there is, I mean, our web app one has some application. Let's assume it has some HTTP server installed, and internally to that instance, there is a HTTP server which got corrupted, right? And I don't want to debug and all that HTTP server. I just want to create a fresh instance with a fresh HTTP server in it. Obviously, I'm not doing installing HTTP server, but I'm just giving you an example of an HTTP server. It can be anything. Let's assume there is an application where you want to have a fresh instance of that application deployed into that. So in those scenarios, you just want to uh, create only test drift or a web app, only the web app I want to recreate. So in those scenarios, what I need to do is I need to run Terraform plan replace. I think it's equal to AWS instance dot. I can use this instance dot test underscore drift and hyphen out is equal to, I can mention test underscore drift. I think even for this one, it's not required. Oh, I should need it, I guess. Yeah, let's try this. You're always equal to, whether to use equal to or space is a bit confusing. You can always refer the documentation to know it better. Okay. Okay. So it says saved the plan to test drift. The syntax is correct. And if you see, it is trying to recreate only test drift, not the test drift one, right? And it clearly says adding one and destroying only one. So that's the main usage of this one. Now let's assume I want to apply this, apply, and apply this. So what happens? It will destroy the existing instance and it will recreate it. If I go here, it will say I'm terminating this one in a while for sure. Obviously, it will generate the plan. Yeah, it haven't generated the plan yet. And I missed to add that auto approve, but that's a good thing to not auto approve it. But we see what exactly is happening. If you see here, it clearly says, let me bring this up a bit. So if it clearly says I'm destroying the test drift, and once it is destroyed, it will start recreating it. And yeah, I forgot to mention one more thing. When you are passing a plan, it won't ask for an approval. That is also one of the important question in your certificate exam. If you're going for a certification, always remembering. In my tutorials, I'll try to cover both real time and as well as the certification level concepts. So please try to listen whatever I'm trying to say. So let's wait for a while. Possibly I'll pause and get back once it's completed. So yeah, now you can see the resource has been provisioned. Now if we go back here and we'll try to restart, you can see the new web app is getting initialized and all your new stuff will be, I mean, you will get a fresh instance with new set of application, whatever you have installed. So that is what the usage of replace. And the next important command is import. Let's assume I have, let's assume if you're aware of this command called Terraform remove. This is a Terraform state remove. This is a command which you can use to remove a specific thing from specific resource from your state file, right? So let's assume there is a scenario where you have removed this instance from your state file. You want to remove a specific instance. I want to remove a test drift from my instance. So for that, what I will do, first I'll open my state file so that I'll get a valid name. Okay, so yeah, Terraform state rm And here I need to give the resource name, which I want to remove. Instance dot test underscore drift one. If I execute this, this should remove my AWS instance as drift from the state file so that I will no more manage the state of the specific drift file. So you can use this in a scenario where, let's assume I want to destroy the Terraform. I want to issue a Terraform destroy, but I don't want to destroy a specific resource. In those scenarios, I can just run this uh, remove that from the state file so that when I run a Terraform destroy, it won't, sorry, form by plan destroy. It won't try to destroy drift 2 because it is no more managed in the state file, right? So even if I find for test underscore drift 1, sorry, not 2, it's 1, you can see only 1, only test drift. So that is what the advantage of remove. Obviously, this is just one scenario. There can be scenario where you have manually added a new EC2 instance, and the next day you you want to import that new EC2 instance state into your existing state. In those scenarios, also you can use the Terraform import, right? So let's assume this is a scenario where I try to destroy the only uh, test drift resource or a web app. So in that case, I'll just run destroy, or this is a standard now. Destroy, this is the command. Destroy is no more a standard command used or recommended by Terraform nowadays. So I'll just go for this one. Let's wait. I'll just pause and get, I will give yes here. Now you can see the resource has been destroyed successfully. I'll go back to AWS and you can see there is web app is not there anymore. So now you can check your Terraform state. There is nothing in your state, right? Your state is empty. There is nothing in your state. State file. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait a second. What happened to this command? Home state show. Exactly one argument expected. Terraform state show address. Okay, that's fine. I'll just use Terraform show, which will basically display nothing because we have deleted that. Right. So there are no resources which are currently managed. So in this scenario, next day you want to import Terraform, what is that? Web app 1 into your uh, state file so that you can continue managing it via Terraform. In that scenario, you can use Terraform import. Let's see how it is coded. Let's give -h. Sorry for the typo. RT. So now you can see how you will be importing, right? So you can see what exactly import does and how we will be importing it. So you have input false, location false, and all, right? There is no, so these are extra commands which they are giving, but they haven't really mentioned any kind of a syntax how you need to do. But yeah, I know the command, don't worry. So I'll just issue CLS. Always remember command will be something like this, Terraform import. Before issuing the command, always remember, if let's assume my config file doesn't have these things. I mean, let's assume I'm trying to import a new resource which is not even present in my config file. Okay. In this scenario, what I need to do, I need to create a dummy resource with the same name or whatever the name you want. You just need to define that dummy resource here, right? In my scenario, I just removed it because of which my config still contains that resource. It's not required, but in a scenario where you previously haven't managed the resource or removed the resource using Terraform state remove command. So in those scenarios, you need to go ahead and add a step here like this, and you need to run it. But in my case, I knew some of the details already. I mean, I used to manage this resource already. In this case, I'll just keep that command. I mean, I'll keep that resource block for that test underscore ref one as is, and I should go with the command called Terraform import AWS instance underscore test underscore ref one space. So always remember every resource in Terraform or in AWS have a unique name, which is called as ARN, right? It can be a different for Azure, but there will be a unique name for every resource. We need to find that name of this specific instance. I'm just trying to find that. Give me a second. Say my name, platform, host name. So you can see there is instance ID here. So you just need to copy that instance ID from either there, or you can see the instance ID here. You just copy that and go back to your VS Code and paste this here and try to run it. Okay, what is a resource specifier must include a resource type and name. Okay, sorry. One thing is I'm missing a dot here, period. So now I'll try to run it. So now what happens is it will try to import your current state of the AWS app instance and update the state file. If you go back to your state file, you don't see test drift, which you have already destroyed previously. Now we can see test drift 1. So these are some of the major scenarios. I have just covered few scenarios, but there can be other major scenario, but I just gave a gist of how to use, how exactly import is used, how exactly refresh only can be used, how exactly a replace can be used in a real-time scenarios. I think that's it for this lecture. Thanks for listening and see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye.